Derek, y'all. Greetings, everyone. My name is Roby Hilliard Heron, and I am Asa Hilliard's eldest daughter. And I am one of 4 children. And who's not with us today is my sister, Patricia, Dr. Patricia Hilliard Nunn, is in Florida recuperating. And she's going to be sorry that she missed this, but when we tell her about how it is, y'all take plenty of pictures, and I'll give you my email later, and you can email me the pictures so I can send it to her. Because what we call this is having a reunion behind her back. So anytime 1 or 2 of us get together, that's one of the things that my father always said is, what are you doing having a reunion behind my back? You know, if he called us up and we were someplace. It's my responsibility to welcome you, so I apologize, first of all, because I'm 10 or 15 minutes late. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And we have to act and be how we want our children to act and be, right? So if timeliness is something that we need to do, then we need to always be on time. So I first ask you to please, I apologize, ask you please to forgive me for not being on time, because we should have started right at 6 o'clock. But on behalf of the Hilliard family, and I'd like all the Hilliards to stand up. All the family members, Hilliards, extended Hilliards. Well, I'm looking at some of you guys in the face and nobody's standing up. Okay, well, actually, there are about 3 or 4 rows, going around here, and there's some all in the back and everything. So it's a wonder that we can actually come together. This is a wonderful occasion and everything. And I think all I was supposed to do was welcome people, but I think, and introduce who, my brother? No? Okay. Okay, somebody's got it. Okay. Well, I'd just like to share this one thing as Reverend Durley comes up. But there's someone in the audience that I needed to bring up, and she didn't come up here when I walked up here. And that was Ms. Brown. Where is she? Come on up here. Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School. Because I know we have a lot of parents here. And this lady, I want her to come up here and welcome us, because she lives around the corner just like we did. And this is Jean Brown. And she was over the PTA here at Mount Olive before it became Asa G. Hilliard. And they did some wonderful things. And my dad actually came up here and spoke at the PTA meetings and helped out with the teachers and everything else. And I just wanted you to see this face, because you're going to be seeing her more. All the parents in here, all the parents that are in here and teachers, wave your hands. I want everybody to look. Okay? You're the most important people in here aside from the students. Did you know that? The parents.
section, come on. This section. That's right, this section, middle section. This is for Asa tonight. This is a celebration. This section, let me see you. Let me start over with this section again. This section, for Asa. Center section, let me see what you got for Asa tonight. Right hand section. Everybody, clap. What a night! What a beautiful night. Amen. What a special night. What a night that was ordained since the beginning of time. We're accustomed to a lot of celebrations, but tonight is very special. I thought about, as a greeting, the best way to greet you is to, I want everybody to hold up your program. Hold it up. I like that. Now, look at the face on the program and listen what he's saying to you. Look at the face. Is that the Asa smile? He is greeting you. Look at that. The man who walked among us, who led us, and who carried us. In the Greek, they say that there are two ways to tell time: chronos and kairos. Chronos means that there are 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, so many hours in a day. We said that we would start chronologically at 6. Chronos. But there's another word that exemplifies tonight. That's kairos. Kairos. It means it has no minutes, no seconds, no hours. It is divinely inspired by a deity greater than us. Asa Hilliard brought us together for a kairos moment. And all that come and all that you believe, I want you to now give a standing ovation to the honoree tonight and let his presence be felt in this place before we name this building for Asa Hilliard. Let him hear your applause. Let him hear. Say how you feel. You might not be on the program, but you can let it feel. This is a kairos moment, a moment that can never be duplicated nor replicated, but a moment that honors the man, the message, and the mission because he had a method. Thank you. On behalf of the Hilliard family and on behalf of Asa Hilliard, my friend, one that I knew in Denver, Colorado, and all the way through. I've lived in East Point now for 32 years. And so tonight, even though they're naming a school, this school was named, the educational properties, the teachers, the students that will come, they were already consecrated years ago when the mantle of this man walked through, his shadow walking through this community, brought tonight. So as we sit and listen to the songs, the proclamations, the words from the children, each of you remember your moment with Asa. Think about it. Remember your moment with Asa as a family member, as a community, as a politician, as a business person, as an educator, as a faith leader. Remember, as a grandchild, remember your special moment all the way through this kairos occasion. And as everybody's saying everything you wish that you could say, but remember it and hold on to that. And I just believe, and I might get in trouble now, so Joe Carnes and other city councilmen, help me now. They say when you're on school property, you're not supposed to pray. Amen. But that's what I was waiting on. Say it again. It's after 5 o'clock, and we've already put the libations on the floor. And Asa was a very spiritual giant, one who understood what it meant to go to Egypt and pull all of the faiths together. So would you join me in the greeting as this school not only is the ribbon cut, but the anointing and the consecration is given to an almighty God. Eternal and almighty, divine, righteous God, we thank you for this moment. We thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. We thank you for a life so well lived, God. We thank you for a man that thought it not robbery to give his life, his time, his energy, every moment of his life to reach out and touch someone. God, he used his smile. He used his style. He used his dress to go up against all of the naysayers. He broke down barriers and raised us all up to a new level of understanding. He went beyond race and gender and sexual preference. He went beyond the boundaries that we put up on this earth to reach out and reach down and lift us all up. He traveled to foreign countries and enlightened and enlivened and encouraged all of us. He gave us the ability to be determined, focused. So tonight, God, as this institution of learning is dedicated in the name of this great man and all of the witnesses that are here tonight as we remember what he has meant to each of us. God, let his spirit, let his soul, let his mantle be placed upon this place. Touch it. And even when the demons of high of education say, we're going to close that place. God, we rebuke it right now. We rebuke it. Because learning will go from here, and young minds, young men and young women will reach up and touch the hem of Asa Hilliard. And they will be the embodiment and the empowerment of what it means to be the best. So tonight, Asa, we lift you up. We thank you. We admonish you. We love your smile and your style. We love everything that you've done for us. Now, let your spirit do it in this place. And we will give all the credit and all the praises to all of the great prophets, of all of the great faiths. We'll give it in that name. We give it in that name on your behalf to Dr. Asa Hilliard III and his family. We greet you in that powerful name. And all those in agreement said, amen, amen, and ashe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kershik Sims Alvarado, and I am the MC for the evening. And I'm so honored to be able to do this for this evening for such a great man who touched so many individuals and whose lives have reached so many across multiple continents. So my job tonight is to keep everyone on task, to keep it moving. This is going to be my signal for those who are speaking. So just look for me out the corner of your eye. I will keep it moving. We have a long program. It's so wonderful to have so many people in the audience. It's wonderful to have so many people who are on the program. So let us get it started. Thank you, Reverend Early, for everything and for bringing the energy into this room. So before we begin, we would like to have greetings from the East Point City Council, followed by the Honorable Catherine Maddox with the Fulton County Board of Education, District 6, as well as Adrian Granger-Smith, principal of the Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School. So wonderful to be able to see that, and to read it and to say those words, Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School. So I'm going to pass the mic on.
I'm going to take a couple of seconds to get my composure back, because as I'm listening to the procession of the drummers, I'm having flashbacks about commencement at Morehouse. Oh, you know I had to get that in. Now, I have a document that I'm told to read, and I'm told to read it only so that they can control how long I speak. Good evening. My name is Myron Cook. This year, I'm serving as the Mayor Pro Tem for the city of East Point. I bring you greetings from our mayor, Mayor Janquel Peters, and the entire city council. Now, we just had a new council member to come in, so we asked to have a quorum, so watch us because I'm going to have to send somebody home in a few minutes. I would like to extend a very special welcome to the Honorable Patsy Jo Hilliard, our real mayor. Okay. And I want to extend that to the entire Hilliard family, members of the Fulton County Board, and the East Point City Council. Welcome all of you to the naming and dedication ceremony of the Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School. This dedication honors an educational genius, a global educator who was devoted to helping students learn. This evening, we celebrate Professor Hilliard and his legacy of education. It is my hope that all of those who serve as administrators, teachers, and students alike at the Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School will appreciate, absorb, and share the same values of excellence as the school's namesake. We are thrilled to have you all in East Point this evening in this amazing new building, honoring an amazing man. Thank you for celebrating this wonderful occasion with us, and enjoy the program.
Good evening. On behalf of the Fulton County Board of Education and our Superintendent Ken Zeff, who is with us tonight, if he would please stand. We want to welcome you to this dedication and celebration of the Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School. I know that you are going to have a great time. And I want to say how proud I am to see all of you here. Now, I would like to introduce to you the wonderful principal of this school, and her name is Mrs. Adrian Granger Smith.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the students, staff, and surrounding community, we want to welcome everyone into our house. This week, our students have had an opportunity to learn more about Dr. Hilliard. Our fifth graders actually did a whole day with Mr. Eric Cork today. It was an awesome experience for them. So they learned about writing, and then they also learned about Dr. Hilliard. Our staff learned earlier this week from Dr. Brian Murray about Dr. Hilliard and some of his philosophies. So it goes beyond what you read on Google and what you see on the internet. It's been a much warmer and more intimate experience this week, and we want to thank the Hilliard family for providing us with that. And one of the things that makes me very proud is a shared belief that we have is that every child can learn. Dr. Hilliard believed that it didn't matter where a child came from, it didn't matter what their socioeconomic background was, there were no obstacles. Every child has an opportunity for greatness. And that's something that we subscribe to here. And I also know that it takes a village to raise a child, so it's going to take all of us to help our students and our school. So our doors are open to you. Whenever you like to come and volunteer, please come. We have lots of things to do that everyone can help with, and you can see me before you leave today if you want some more specific information. So we'd like to welcome you today. And before I step off, I have Mr. David Knox, who's our land agent. He has a special presentation.
Thank you, Principal Granger Smith. Good evening. My name is David Knotts, and I work for Fulton County Schools in the Capital Improvements Department. and it is a proud moment tonight for all of us. The SPLOST allowed us to have this school here through your purchasing and sales tax throughout all of the city of Atlanta and Fulton County. And we thank you for that, first of all. And we thank you, Mrs. Maddox, for all that you do for the Fulton County Board of Education, and Superintendent Ken Zeff. We thank you. As a member of the staff, several years ago, we began the search and identified this as the redevelopment of the new school. And it was exciting when construction started in late May of 2014. And today we're standing before you all with the new school and all the beautiful grounds and facilities and what you all have given us as far as what you all were looking for in a new school. And today we have a temporary plaque, as the other one is very heavy to carry, to give, and it recognizes each of the board members, the contractors and consultants, and to say also thank you to the community and all those who are here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by the East Point Boy Scout Troop 54.
Color guard advance. Color guard hold. Post colors. May you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. You may be seated. Color guard dismissed.
Thank you, members of the East Point Boy Scout Troop 54. I would also like to acknowledge in the room as well the East Point Girl Scout Troop 354 and Troop 13593. Can you just stand for a brief second? I would like to acknowledge your presence. You all doing all right? All right, great. All right, so I think it's so appropriate that we actually began the program with Hakeem Hilliard and Asa Pearl Hilliard, son and granddaughter of Dr. Asa G. Hilliard. And this young lady is becoming one of my favorite new persons on Facebook. I'm sure it's becoming yours as well, too.
Thank you, Karshik. Good evening, everybody. Eric Cork, I want him to come stand up here with me and Asa. While he's coming up here, I also wanted to say, you met my sister already, Roby. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and I wanted to say again that Patricia, and Kenneth are sad that they could not be here, but they are with us in spirit. For the teachers in the room, you would be excited to know that they are both teachers also. Kenneth is a law professor at the University of Florida's Law School, and Trish is a teacher at the undergrad when she chooses, and she's not doing other stuff also. but she has the distinction of also forming a publishing company to publish many of my father's books. So they doubled, she and Kenneth, as kind of his informal think tank when he was doing a lot of the writing that he was doing. So they're here with us in spirit. In fact, I'm holding up a phone, and Trish, I hope I'm doing all right, because she's with me on FaceTime right now. Also, our oldest sibling, Asa Hilliard IV, is not with us this evening. He passed in 2009, but I said a long time ago that anytime I have an opportunity to say something about my father, I have to say something about my brother too, because Asa was an incredible, incredible person. And he really, if you knew my father, then you knew Asa, because Asa embodied the humility and the humble spirit and the love of family that really represented what our father meant to us. So I miss him dearly, and I just say in his honor that he would be very, very honored that we're here today and celebrating. I wanted to bring Eric Cork up with us, so you know he was here with the fifth graders all day. And there's a couple people that I've met. There's a couple of times in my life where my father called me and said, hey, you know, you got to meet your brother. And it's only been a couple of times I said, you mean Ace? No, you used to know your other brother. And Mom, not a real sibling. You know, I know you. You gotta meet your other brother. There are people that my father met, fell so much in love with what they were doing for children that he wanted to adopt them, and he couldn't wait till they became part of the family. And this is one of them, Eric Court. Eric got in a car from Houston, Texas a couple of days ago to come spend the day with the fifth graders here at Asa Hilliard Elementary today, to work with them all day. He does an incredible program called Rap Rhythm and Writing Foundations, teaching children the foundations of writing using music and rhythm. And if you were here today, you would have been blown away by it. He had 100 kids at rapt attention. And I think Miss Smith, all the kids were really into what he was doing, and they learned a lot of new words, right? 5 hours, nonstop. He was going harder than the kids. So I wanted to make sure we personally recognize him, because he got in the car to come here for this day. So then Asa Pearl Hilliard, who's named for her grandfather and for her uncle Asa, is going to do something for us that she was doing in school today, but she wanted to do a brief, you're going to do the poem, right? Okay, here you go. You want to go over here and do it? Okay. Stand up there at the top. All right, good top. Go up the top.
Good morning.
Go ahead. One more step. Good evening. Step up. There, that's it. Okay.
Good morning, parents. I'm doing a poem by Maya Angelou, Cut Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter twisted lies. You may try me in the very dirt, but still like dust outrise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and just like suns, with the certainty of tides. Just like hope springing hides, but still I'll rise.
That was beautiful. Give me a hug. All right. Stand here with me. Huh? No, there's not time for a song. That's all you get, okay? All right, thank you. Very briefly about the occasion. You know, when I was thinking about the occasion, I was thinking about a day when I was coming home I was in college. I spent a little more time at home than I was welcome to. I came back from school and went and lived at home with my mother and father. So I was out one evening and came back really late, early in the morning, about 3 in the morning. And I sat on the couch and I felt I made it in safely. They didn't know I was here. They were in the bed sleeping. And I sat down, and before I turned the TV on, I heard these steps, these feet coming up from downstairs in the basement where my father's library was. And I saw his head poke up, and he said, "Hawk?" And I said, "Oh no, he busted me." And he came upstairs, and he was so excited that I was there and awake. And he walked in, and he had a paper that was about 200 pieces of paper stapled together. And he said, "Hey man, you need to check this out. This is my baddest work yet." And he handed it to me. I was like, "Okay, great, Dad. I'll look at it." And I just kind of held it in my lap. And he sat down and then started looking at me like I was going to read 200 pages right there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, he said, "Well, just tell me what you think." I said, "Now?" He said, "Well, yeah, now, you know." And what I took from that, and many lessons, and my sister will tell you, my sisters will tell you, my mother will tell you, that he operated with such an urgency in his work for helping children. And if he were standing here today, he wouldn't be celebrating. He'd be saying there is an urgent dilemma that we're faced with. And it's not any different than it was when he was alive. And we all should be working towards solving that issue right now for our children. It's the same issue over and over and over again. And he would be desperately asking everybody here to get on board. I'd like the teachers from Asa G Elementary School just to raise your hand or stand where you are, or in the back of the room. We saw a lot of them. Raise your hands. You know, and stay standing. Former students. Oh, his former students. Okay, yeah. So the teachers, and I just want to say to you, I think I can say with confidence, because he said it over and over again to all of you, this tonight is really about you. We've celebrated him, and we celebrate him as a family all the time. This is about you, and I hope you see this entire community of people that are here, that this school is not an island in this community, and that if you need help, we're here to support you. And the occasion really is to celebrate all of you this evening and what you do, and Principal Smith and Dr. Martin and everybody that's worked with us to make this. They open their doors, whatever you want to do. She said Brian Murray was here earlier. You guys are going to talk about that. I'll shut up. But thank you. This is really about the teachers, and we support you, and this community supports you, and we wanted you to see what the community means to us. So thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us to be here with you. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. So let us bring forth Dr. Tabitha Martin with Fulton County Schools, as well as Dr. Aletta Denson, National Board Certified Teacher Leader.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for all of you coming here tonight. It's been a wonderful week. We've done a lot of planning, and I just have a short presentation that I want to show you that gives just a few snippets of some of the things that we had at our disposal this week at Asa Hilliard, and we plan to continue.
Didn't hook up a line, so we're going to do this sound the old-fashioned way. We're going to put the microphone on her computer.
And by the way, this is our school song.
This morning, I'm ready for Saturday. Gonna be good, trying to be the best. There's an old thing talking for. I have everything I need without the mind on my mind. Right here at Asa Hilliard.
Oh, everybody, this is the man. Mr. Moore, he's going to perform the song live for you.
Take your stand and you'll have anything you can achieve. Now is our time to shine. Now is our time to shine. Now is our time. Our time to shine.
Thank you.
Greetings. Can you hear me? Dr. Hilliard has always been concerned about what children are taught. The way children are taught and the content are always and always has been intertwined. The content of the school coursework is never neutral. It has an effect on our children, which calls for an infusion of content in the school curriculum. It is believed by him that it presents a more truthful portrayal of human events. The aim is to help provide the missing content that is multidisciplinary, holistic, thematic, and contextual. We want to see the story of a people told not merely a story of isolated heroes and events. We want teachers to be able to tell an integrated story of a group of people as it evolved over time. Culture has always been the hidden key to our educational excellence and our accomplishments in civilization. Dr. Hilliard, for much of his career, was concerned with the problem of low performance of African American, Hispanic American, and American Indian students, as well as poor European students. Because of this, he would research and examine curriculum with a critical eye and seek out teachers that taught students that had the skill and the will to take those students to an excellent performance as a result of an infused curriculum. At the same time, he observed those magnificent teacher educators who, like excellent teachers, were able to transform their knowledge of excellent teaching to recruit others and teach others, which included a curriculum that was much needed and infused. He was fortunate enough to see firsthand individual teachers and whole schools that was consistently successful in producing the highest level of academic excellence with those students who are regarded as most likely candidates for failure. I was fortunate enough to be one of those teachers chosen by him that consistently, with his help, produce excellence in students and teachers. Dr. Hilliard was my teacher educator. I always say, Eric, I was his favorite, but tonight you can borrow. That did more than teach me because I was working on degrees. He taught me how to destroy all barriers and excuses that would prohibit me from educating all children at a level that we call excellence. He taught me the leadership skills and the program skills that would allow me to take a whole school to the highest level of success that has yet to be replicated by any school in the nation, Stonewall Tail Elementary. For 10 plus years, while working full-time as a teacher, a specialist, and doctoral students, I sat one-on-one every other week for an additional 2 hours reading packets and books about that thick that was it was urgent that I read them and come back and discuss them. Under his persistent and consistent guidance, suggestions, recommendation, numeracy, question, answer, you name it, for an additional 2 or more hours every week, he led me to become the first African American to become National Board Certified in the state of Georgia and the first teacher in Atlanta public school system. Under his guidance, I started creating professional learning communities before Fulton County knew where they were. And I developed all of Stonewall Tail's professional development that resulted into 40 National Board candidates, the largest cohort in the nation to have that many at one site. Under his leadership, the entire school went through a professional development that was so rigorous that the teachers and their administrators went through it together as I planned with him their professional learning, which resulted in 0 attrition and the highest cohort ever again in the nation to ever successfully complete it. In May of 2007 was the last time Dr. Hilliard came to visit my class, because just like he chose me to, as I don't know, he chose me. He said when the student is ready, the teacher will come. Well, when I went to Stonewall Tell, I had a 4th grade team that was ready for a teacher to come. And so in May of 2007, that 4th grade team had the opportunity to sit with Dr. Hilliard as he spoke with them and signed his book, African Power. One of them are here tonight, Mrs. Porter, because as a result of that, those teachers, which were 5, are now 2 National Board Certified teachers. Mrs. Porter is a master teacher for the state of Georgia, and now she is a data support specialist for Fulton County, where she travels and teaches administrators and teachers how to use data to enhance instruction. That's the kind of teacher leader and teacher educator he was to me. I am an excellent educator. I mean it. Because of him. In the 26 years I've been teaching, I've never failed a student. I've never called a parent for a discipline problem. And everything I touch when I develop a program is successful, period. I am not his mentee or protege. I am his prototype. I am the model he molded to be a teacher and a teacher educator devoted to helping all children and teachers learn. I am rooted in pedagogical and curricular successes. Children in this school, no matter what their racial or ethnic background, must be presented with pictures of the real world and teachers like I just mentioned. It will take educators, like myself and others mentioned, to bring these type lessons into fruition for the students. So I, as an educator, also applaud the teachers in the room, because I am that first, a leader second, and a teacher educator third. Excellent performance by students and excellent mastery of our standards-based curriculum is not a matter of miracle. Hard work, clear focus can transform the education conditions of our students if we do what he suggests, simply our homework. That is what he would expect from this school. He would expect successes to destroy forever the whole inventory of excuses for our failure to educate all children at a level of excellence. So let us continue to work together and deeply reconstruct education in this building in ways that will enable teachers to release the full potential of all of our children. So I conclude with this and one question. Do you have the will to educate all children? From the PowerPoint tonight, I would say yes. From the observation of the writing today, I would say yes, and he would be proud. Thank you.
I love it. Sound like she just dropped the mic, right? I love that she said, I'm an excellent teacher. And you know when women mean what they say, when they give you that. Thank you, Dr. Martin and Dr. Denson. Now we will have the Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School Choir to come forth.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Benjamin Moore, and I'm the music teacher here at the school. We are pleased to present our first selection for you, which is our school song that was written by Mr. Brendan Simmons, Miss Susan Gordon, and myself, who are 3 teachers here at Asa Hilliard Elementary. And this is our dedication ensemble, who is prepared to perform for you. We hope you enjoy the performance.
This morning, ready for learning. It's gonna be a good day. Try to be the best. There's an open door before me, where I have everything I need. With pen and pride on my mind, right here at Asa Hilliard. Asa Hilliard. With an open mind, you will find your success is guaranteed. Asa Hilliard. Take a step hand in hand, anything you can achieve. Now it's our time to shine. Now it's our time to shine. Now it's our time to shine.
One more time. Mr. Kenyatta Bush is about to come up in here, and I get to introduce him. And I'm just going to say, by way of introducing Kenyatta, I was driving down the street in the passenger seat of my father's car. He was driving, and he had a book open on his steering wheel. I guess you can't do that anymore. And we had just been to the bookstore. He bought about 8 books. And over the course of about 20 minutes on our drive home, he read every book. He said he'd leaf through it real quick and he'd throw it in the back seat. And I was watching him, and he knew I was watching him, but he wouldn't look at me. He just had a little grin on his face because he knew he had gotten my attention. And finally, we got home. I said, "What are you going to do with these books?" He said, "Well, I don't need them right now. I'm taking them in later, but I already read them." I said, "There's no way you read all those books." He says, "You got to understand, I've been doing this for a long time." He says, and there's only so much that can be said about a topic, and most of the things that people are writing is something that's already been said. He says, I read the books to try to find something new that somebody hasn't said, and I can get to it right away by looking at the table of contents. And it might be a sentence, it might be a paragraph. Kenyatta's laughing, he's heard that, you know. There's an urgency. He said, I don't really have time to go through a book and read something I've already read. I got to get to the issue because we're in an urgent situation right now. He treated the people he associated with that way too. He was a social person when he could be, but for the most part, he was about work. And he spent more time, you could tell who the people were that were inspiring him because he'd spend more time with those folks. Kenyatta Bush is one of these people. He was a student at Georgia State, and he's another guy that I heard about when I was away at school. He said, you got to meet your brother. I said, oh, Lord, I got another brother now. And it was Kenyatta Bush, a student at Georgia State University, who was always in his office, worked closely with him. But my dad was really excited about Kenyatta because he said, this guy reads. Like I tell him something and he goes and reads it and he comes back and tells me about it and I have to go figure out the answers to his questions. And he was very excited to have Kenyatta working with him for the time he did. I'm going to say a little bit about what's on this sheet. I know I'm supposed to introduce you. But Kenyatta Bush is a highly sought after motivational speaker, activist, or ordained Baptist preacher who often challenges audiences to strive for a heightened level of cultural awareness. For nearly 20 years, he has blessed audiences with traditional African ideologies and modern African American philosophies. One issue that people have struggled with over the years, they said, well, you know, we understand that your father's got this educational psychology degree. What's this Africa thing? Where does the Africa piece come into it? Is it just because, Hakeem, you were born in Africa and so he loves Africa so much? That was a joke. It fell flat. It's not that. He said that in doing his work to try to discover why particularly African American children weren't performing at the levels of all other children in school, he found that it was an issue of identity. And he wanted to replace that by giving people their identity back, by teaching them their history. And it led him into the history. He also thought it would help teachers to know the history of these children, because then it would help them with having the kind of expectation level they needed to give the students the attention that they deserved. So that's where it came from. That's why he did it. Kenyatta is I don't want to say he's a student, because he would be excited above everything else that Kenyatta is here to come talk this evening. So I'm going to invite Kenyatta Bush up here right now. Thank you.
I'm not going to be very long. It's an honor to be here. It's funny about Asa, because I thought I was his child. And when he made his transition from earth to glory, I met a whole lot of other folk who were like, no, I'm his child. And I was like, no, I'm his child. And he had the ability to make that, when he talked to you, he made you feel like you were the only person in the room, and it could be packed. And then he would follow up. We would have conversations, and I wouldn't see him in 6 months, and he would pick up from the period where we ended and continue to have the conversation. And I was like, I don't even remember the book you're talking about. And he's like, no, Kenyatta, you know it exactly. And I was like, well, let me try to register. It was amazing. A little bit before I start, I met Asa at Georgia State right after the student sit-in. I was actually very nervous to go up. I had read his work. I knew who he was. Before YouTube, I had all these, y'all know what VHS tapes are? If you're over 40, you know. Had all these VHS tapes of him speaking. And I saw him and saw one of my friends. I said, man, that's Asa. And he was like, go over there. I was like, no, you can't go talk to him. And he was like, man, go. So he took me over and introduced me, and we went up to his office. He gave me about 5 articles. And he said, when you get through reading these, come back and see me. So the next day I was sitting at his door, and he sat there and said, you didn't read all that? And I said, yeah, you know, you talk about Frantz Fanon, and he was like, wait, you? And I was like, yeah, in this article right here, she stole my last, do you have the will to educate all children? I was like, you know, we're talking about basically educating all the children where they are. He said, you really sat down and read? I said, yeah, I haven't been to sleep. And he said, so you serious about this thing? And I said, well, Bob, I don't know if I really want to do education, but I'm serious about the liberation of African folk. And he said, well, then your family. And he began to say that toward the end of his life, that either you're a family or you're not. And so what I want to talk about is Asa Hilliard as a Sanzala, the Congo folk. In 1526, a group of people left Hispaniola. And when they left Hispaniola, they came to a little place right off the coast of Georgia called Sapelo Sound. And in that, the Africans rebelled. They were Maroons. Him and I would debate this notion of Maroon. I like the term Quilombo, which means an R camp, but he would say Maroons. And what they did is they rebelled and they ran away. When we find narratives of those folk, the Europeans say they created a Sanzala. And a Sanzala is a clearing in the forest. It's a pathway where folk could create the reality. And what Asa was in the forest of mediocrity, he was a Sanzala. He cleared away mediocrity and set up. So I want to talk about how he was a Sanzala in just 3 little aspects, and I'll be done. One is educational excellence. I teach at a charter school, and at our charter school, we talk about there are no excuses for mediocrity. What Asa said is that you take the child that you love the most, is what he would call them. Y'all know the child, the teachers, you know the child you love the most? The one that you want to sometimes just put your hand around real close. He said, and you find the child that you love the most, and you find the thing that can motivate them to be the best student that they could be. Almost every day at work, there's some child that I want to hug real tight. And I can hear by force saying, find the thing that motivates that child the best, the most, and touch that in that child, and you'll see excellence. What I did, I have the class, I have 22 students, 18 boys, and I don't have a co-teacher, everybody else has a co-teacher. And I take the children that nobody can do anything with, they call them Bush's boys, and I say, give me them. The kids that they talking about kicking out, they want to put out, I said, give me them. And one day my principal pulled me aside and she said, Kenyatta, why do you want the boys that are always in the hall, that are crying, that nobody wants to do anything with? I said, I had a chance to sit with this giant who always told me there's a genius in every child that you come in touch with. And if you treat them like they're a genius, and you have a great expectation for them, they'll rise to that expectation. She said, well, this little boy can cuss better than he can read. And I said, you know what I learned about a little boy that can cuss better than he can read? His mama can cuss too. And he learned those things at home. But I said, what I did is I showed him there is a better way. And I said, when we began to talk about cultural things, I found out he liked basketball. So we went down the line and talked about LeBron James and Stephon Marbury, and then we went on to talk about Michael Jordan. And then I said, what I want you to do is I'm going to teach you how to read using basketball books. And what I do is find the little things. And so what Asa said is that we have to realize that education is a socialization process, because not only is it about you learning how to read and write, but it's how you function in society. And so he began to look at those things, and he realized that testing was important, but it wasn't the end all to be all. In fact, he would always call them these little poop butt tests. And he said, the tests aren't hard, the tests are a minimum. And so what I began to do with this young boy who could neither read or write, I teach kindergarten, who could neither read or write when I got him, is I said, watch, I told his mom, give me at the end of the year, he'll pass the test and he will exceed. And she said, well, he don't do no homework, he don't study. And I said, well, that's where you come in. Asa talked about in local parents, missing parents. I said, you gotta work with them as much as I work with them. So I would stay after school with this boy every day and teach him how to read. He's in the 2nd grade now, he's reading on a 4th grade level. He calls me, I've been off work sick. He calls me every Friday and says, Mr. Bush, let me tell you what I did this week. His mom sent me a picture, he was a student of the week. And this was a child, when he came into school the first week, we were talking about putting out. Why is that important? Because there's a genius in every child. And Bafor taught me to just look in that child's eyes and realize that they're not tabula rasa. Y'all know what that means? He didn't come to the world with nothing. That he's actually an ancestor returning. And that he's bringing something into the world. And if you touch the ancestral spirit that the child has, you can see the genius that arises. And then he also talked about teacher transformation. I know tests drive all of us crazy. And I don't know if they do. In charter schools, they hold that over your head. If you don't meet your standard, you'll be looking for a new job. And what I realized is that if I taught the test, I was teaching mediocrity. If I taught them excellence, they would pass the test and exceed what the teachers were looking for. So you didn't just start doing that. What Asa realized is that you have to start not just teaching the bare minimum, that you have to see yourself not as just a teacher, but a guide along the way. So in this Sanzala, in this area that we've cleaned out, we have to begin to teach young folk how not to just be learned, but how to function in societies as Maroons, as people that escape this land of mediocrity to move toward excellence. The last thing is the second thing is he always talked about family. And this notion of family. And I don't want to talk about just blood family, because that ain't how Africans live with family. I don't know, in my house, I had an Uncle Billy Ray, who I don't know how he was kin to us. I don't know, like, when I asked my mom just recently, she was like, well, he really wasn't your uncle. He just didn't have nowhere to live. And so my great-grandmama took him in, but he was Uncle Billy Ray my whole life. And when he talked about family, what he was talking about is that once we connect, then we're blood family, that we share the same. When you hurt, I hurt. When we have struggle, when you have a struggle, I have a struggle. So when we begin to talk about a family, that notion of me feeling special, I realized that he had created a whole nother family. I'll never forget, one day I was at his house writing a paper. And I was coming upstairs and I had been writing. And then there was somebody else coming in. I said, hey, what are you doing? And he let me use the library too. And I was like, no, this is my library. Like, you can't come. He said, Kenyatta, that's your sister. She's family. And what he began to realize is that if we were all on the same team, if we were all about the liberation of African people, then we were family. And when we talk about family, that clearly, when we look at Asa, we just lost Baba Obadeli, who was my greatest connection to Asa, that they were family. Those were fathers to me. But then fathers to Asa and Obadeli was John Henry Clark. And then a father to John Henry Clark was Arthur Schomburg. And we begin to see that there's a great cloud of witnesses that are standing up, that's looking for excellence, that we have a family surrounding us, but then we have a family above us that is charging us to move forward and push on. The last thing is that he realized the foundation of who we were was Africa. We weren't just people that started in slavery. If you started your history in slavery, then you've already lost your battle. He realized that as African people, we have to learn how Africans begin to learn. I watched his last speech, was Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and he talked about how to make, and it was something he used a lot, but how do you create a sheepdog? And the way that you create a sheepdog is you separate the sheepdog as a child away from his family and raise him with the sheep. And the sheepdog begins to think he's a sheep, and he starts to act like a sheep. He nurses the dogs. He functions just like a sheep. And then when another dog comes, he'll attack the dog because he thinks that he's a sheep. Maybe y'all don't know folk that are like that they've been raised with the sheep. And when they begin to see excellence, and when they begin to see people doing the same thing, they become attack dogs for the sheep rather than standing with the dogs who are on their side. And I'm going to sit down because I was going to close with, do we have the will to educate our people? And that line was stole. But I want you to realize that during slavery, there was a plantation. And in this plantation, there was this preacher, but the slave master called him an old devil. And the preacher began to have people around, and there was a young man that was fighting and running away. And the master caught him, and they began to preach, to whip him, and the preacher stood in front and said, I got something for you. And he went and whispered in the young man's ear, Cooley-Bah. And the young man began to run, and the master was chasing him, and he began to run further and further, and finally he began to fly. And other people looked and said, is it time, master? And he said, yes. And so he said, Cooley-Bah. And the other people began to fly. He said, Cooley-Bah. And more people began to fly. He said, Cooley-Bah again. And more people began to fly. And I want you to realize that there is a word. Cooley-Bah means go back home. What he realizes is that we can all fly. We can fly beyond mediocrity. We can fly beyond state standard tests. We can fly beyond these low levels of the state has given us. We can fly toward excellence. I never thought there would be a day that I would stand in the Asa G. Hilliard school anywhere, Asa G. Hilliard, the third school anywhere. And what I want you all to realize, as you bring your children here, bring them here prepared to be excellent. Bring them here to exceed the lowest possibilities that they have here so that these schools compete with the schools in Buckhead. Bring them here, realizing the Dogon people talk about no more this word, and that word has power, realizing that there is a word in each and every one of your children that gives them power to function beyond who they are. As I sit down, I'm a Baptist preacher, I apologize, that's just what I do. I want y'all to realize this, is that if we as a community don't make Asa G. Hilliard the third elementary school excellence, not only have we failed this community, but we failed the spirit of by four. And not only have we failed the spirit of by four, we failed the spirit of those ancestors that surround us that are looking for us to do great things. So as we push forward, y'all, realize that all of us have to come back in this building, and we all have to come back and do something in this building. And when we come in, I don't want, my mom was talking about a school that she grew up in, and she was like, I don't even know who the man was. I don't want our children in 20 years to walk past and say, well, I don't know, he was some man with some African clothes hanging on the wall. We have to come back and tell the story of who he was. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I don't care what y'all say, I'm his child. I'm the only, other than his blood children, I'm the only other child. But no, I want to thank y'all for this opportunity, and I want each and every one of you to have an Asa moment. What do I mean by that? A moment when you feel like giving up, but you realize that there is war, literally war, being declared against our communities and against our families, and you got to stand up and fight. All of us have an Asa moment. Thank you.
I'll be very brief as well. I would like to share my own personal Asa Hilliard story. I was actually working in, I'm not sure if you all will remember this, but there used to be this little African store that was in Rich's department store. I'm saying Rich's now, you know that was a long time ago. That was in Greenbrier Mall. And I heard about Dr. Asa Hilliard for years. And he had those of us who were in college so geeked up about Black Egypt. And so I learned about him before I ever met him, but I met him one day when I was working, and I had never seen his face before. So he comes up to where I was working, and he introduced himself. And so I said, oh, I know who you are. I said, guess what? I was so excited about you. I actually applied to go to school in Egypt. I got accepted and everything. I was geeked. So he started talking to me, and he asked me what it is that I wanted to do. So I can't remember exactly what I said, but he looked at me and he said, no, you need to stay here. And so I think he, in hindsight, I think he may have recognized something about me that I didn't even see within myself. And so he put it gently. He said, no, I think you need to stay here. There's a lot going on in Egypt right now. But he said some of the best schools to learn about Egypt is actually in the United States. He said, you should stay here. So he made a few recommendations. So actually, I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh. But he caused me to pause and kind of think about my options and which direction that I needed to go. So I decided to enroll into school at Clark Atlanta, and had I not, I heard somebody clapping, see, I do. And so had I not listened to him to pause and think for a second about various options that I may have, I would not have met my husband, Joel Alvarado, who's actually sitting in second row from the back. And my little one, our clone, Nation Shabazz Alvarado. I'm not sure where he's at now. I'm missing. Okay, he's there somewhere. But that happened. But at the same time, too, Dr. Hilliard calls me to turn inward. And he caused me to look at Atlanta as the Black Egypt. And I began to look at the hills of Atlanta as the Golden Sun Dunes. And many of these buildings in peril as ancient tombs. And I actually crawled into some of them, and I found the treasures. And I learned that the treasures were actually inside the walls of many of the buildings of our ancestors. So I got to work, and I started documenting these ancient ruins, these buildings in peril, and now I'm up to 700 buildings that tells the story of our ancestors that came before us. And I have to thank him for that, for causing me to turn inward. So I would like to say thank you, Dr. Hilliard. So now let's keep the program going. I would now like to call forth Miss Leila Hill. Is she present? And she's going to provide a reading for us, followed by another student, and that is Miss Leona Francis from Troop 354. Oh, there you are. There you go.
Good evening. Good evening. To our principal, Ms. Granger Smith, Ms. Hawkins, our assistant principal, and the Hilliard family, visitors, teachers, parents, and my fellow Panthers. My name is Layla Hill, a fantastic fifth grader in Dr. Martin's fifth grade class, and it is indeed an honor to bring the reflections of Dr. Hilliard to you this evening. Dr. Asa Hilliard was born on August 22, 1933, and died on August 13, 2007. He was an African-American professor of education, psychology, and worked on ancient African history, culture, education, and society. Dr. Hilliard was married to Patsy Jo Hilliard, the first African-American mayor of the city of East Point, Georgia. Through this union, they have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. This week has been filled with facts that we learned about Dr. Asa Hilliard. He believed that all children were capable of achieving excellence. The keys to achievement were high expectations, well-trained teachers, and the abandonment of standardized testing. Dr. Hilliard was a pioneer in the rediscovery of the African roots of modern civilization and leading advocate of an Afrocentric school curriculum that emphasized the historical achievements of blacks who promote students' self-esteem. Dr. Hilliard wrote more than 1,000 publications on subjects including educational policy, teaching strategies, testing, child growth and development, African history and culture, and scientific and cultural achievements where they work off Black Africans ignited controversy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to celebrate this occasion with us. In the words of Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. We, the students of Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School, are ready to change the world.
And Miss Leona Francis.
Hi, my name is Leona Francis, and I have prepared a speech for Asa Grant Hilliard III. 33. He was an African-American professor of education psychology who worked on ancient African history. He was the Fuller E. Calloway Professor of Yearborn Education at Georgia State University. Asa was a dean at the School of Education at San Francisco University in San Francisco, California. Hilliard was married to former mayor of East Point, Georgia, Patsy Jo Hilliard. She is the first African-American mayor of East Point, Georgia. He had 4 children with her and 8 grandkids who are all living today. Asa's grandfather was a high school principal in Bay City, Texas, for whom the former Hilliard High School was named. His father, Asa Grant Hilliard II, was also a high school principal who spent most of his time in Tyler, Texas. He believed that all children were capable of achieving excellence. The keys to achievement were high expectations, well-trained teachers, and the abandonment of standardized testing. He was a pioneer in the rediscovering of the African roots of modern civilization and leading proponent of Afrocentric school curriculum that emphasized the history, achievement of blacks to promote student self-esteem. Hilliard was traveling with his wife and a tour group in Egypt in 2007, 9 days before his birthday, when he died unexpectedly of what was determined to be malaria. He died August 13, 2007 in Cairo, Egypt. We will always remember him by this school. He wrote more than 2,000 essays.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. Thank you, Ms. Hill. We now have a special presentation from Dr. Paul A. Alberto, Dean and Regents Professor with the College of Education and Human Development at Georgia State University, as well as with Dr. Gwendolyn Benson, Associate Dean for Community and International Partnerships, also at Georgia State University.
Good evening, and thank you. I'm delighted to be able to bring greetings from Georgia State University to this incredible celebration we're having in East Point. A celebration is good for the soul, and Asa Hilliard was a cherished soul. And we are delighted that his name will now be in stone on this building. You will be relieved to know that I do not have to give the 30-minute recitation about Asa Hilliard as a professor. This lovely Miss Francis, who just disappeared back there, just did that for me. And more important, if you want to know what Asa did in higher education, all you need to do is look at Kenyatta Bush and Aletta Denson, and you will know in 2 quick visuals all there is to know about what he did in higher education, and that you need to understand that what he did for us in higher education was every bit as important as what he was doing for young children when he said every child can learn. The beauty about every child can learn was in the face of this choir. These are the children who, as they become graduates of Asa Hilliard Elementary School, will carry on his name, and Kenyatta need not worry 20 years from now if anybody will know, well, who was that man whose name is in stone on this building? One of the things we understand about Asa for the years that we had with him was that not only was he a man to be cherished, he was a man to be shared. And we shared him with all of you and with many, many public schools here and around the world. And what we want to do now is assure you and show you how we will continue to share him by wrapping our arms around Asa G. Hilliard III Elementary School. Gwen Benson, the Associate Dean for Partnerships and International Relations.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. As I look out across the audience here tonight and listening to the comments, it's so evident that there are many folks who are part of the Asa Hilliard family and the Georgia State family. And Asa meant so much to us. My favorite quote is, Brian Murray, you'll understand this, is first you have to love them. So we pride ourselves with our partnership work we're doing at Georgia State with working in the highest needs schools. We feel that if we can prepare our teachers to work in those schools, they can work anywhere. So tonight we want to officially welcome the Asa Hilliard Elementary School as our professional development school in partnership with Georgia State University. Yeah. And And we hope this banner will hang in the lobby. This means that Georgia State will be sharing our faculty resources, our financial resources, writing grants with the school district, providing professional development with teachers. And we invite all, yes. And we invite the faculty and administration and the members of the Georgia State community. I see some retired faculty. We invite you to join us as part of this professional learning community. And we thank you. We come bearing gifts to kick off our partnership. So we brought gift bags for all of the teachers and administrators. So,
That's beautiful. We also have a special presentation from, Georgia State Representative Keisha Waits from District 60. I want to make sure I had District 60 correct. Keisha Waits. You've been sitting next to me the whole time?
Absolutely. Greetings, everyone. Because our good friend Dr. Hilliard was an international figure. Can you help me with this, Adrian, for 1 second? I want you to stand here with me. I greet you with good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So wherever you are in the world, thank you so much. We bring greetings to you tonight from our nation's capital, from our state capital tonight. We have letters of support and congratulations from the members of Congress as well as the United States Senate. The first one's going to be from Congressman David Scott, where he sends, thank you, give him a hand please. From Georgia's 13th district, where he sends greetings to the family, faithful wife, members of the Hilliard family, distinguished guests. He sends his greetings tonight, and again salutes his school. Congratulations to this community. Thank you. And the next one is from United States Senator Johnny Isaacson sends greetings. Again, he indicates, thank you. Again, from our nation's capital, he indicates that it is a pleasure for him to send heartfelt congratulations to all who have gathered to celebrate the opening of the Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School. So I am honored again to make these presentations on behalf of our United States senators and members of Congress. I am here on behalf of our governor, on behalf of the members of the Georgia House of Representatives and the Georgia State Senate. I believe my friend and colleague, Representative Joe Hextall, can you stand for me, please? Can you give him a hand, please? He served with distinction and honor for many years in Georgia's capital. So we bring greetings again from the state of Georgia to recognize and honor the life of Dr. Asa Hilliard with contributions, wonderful memories he's given us. He was a man of magnanimous strength and an unimpeachable reputation for integrity, intelligence, fairness, kindness. He was the example to live by for our world, for the state of Georgia. So therefore it is fitting on behalf of the Georgia House of Representatives that we honor the life and legacy of Dr. Hilliard to this community. And again, we salute you. Congratulations. These will be displayed in the school. We would love that so that everyone will have the opportunity to see the expressions from all around our nation and from around the world. On behalf of our governor, on behalf of the members, congratulations, and we look forward to working with you in partnership. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you. This was an unexpected surprise. I think the mic was supposed to go this way, but thank you.
Thank you, Representative Waits. Now we will have a special presentation from Hakeem Hilliard.
Okay. I don't know how this worked that I had to keep coming up here to the microphone. You do this? Okay. This is a letter from Reverend Pastor Dr. Jeremiah Wright, from the Pastor Emeritus at Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago, Illinois. Some of you know that my father was traveling with him, he and my mother, when he made his transition. So he wanted to write this letter to the administration, the students, and the parents of ACG Hilliard Elementary School. I write you today to congratulate you on the official naming ceremony of the school in Fulton County, District of Atlanta, Georgia. You could not have chosen a more worthy name for a more excellent man. Dr. Asa Hilliard was indeed one of a kind. His brilliance, his intellect, and his insights were equaled only by his passion for learning and for teaching. As a founding member of the Association of Black Psychologists, Asa was committed to the freeing of the minds of Africans, both on the continent and in the Black Atlantic diaspora. Baba Asa's mastery of the Meta Neter and the ancient manuscripts in the Nile Valley are just one example of his scholarship and his love for the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. His desire to master that material was not selfish or self-centered. He wanted African American children to know their rich history and invaluable heritage. It was my privilege and my pleasure to be a colleague of Dr. Hilliard for many years. His commitment to education of African American children was without question thoroughgoing, consistent, and incredible. Dr. Hilliard spent his entire adult life committed to the education of African Americans. Baba Asa not only came to our church every year to lecture to the parents, the students, and the faculty at Kwame Nkrumah Academy, an African-centered charter school for elementary school children, he also came every year to the city of Chicago to teach the faculty and staff of the Centers for the New Horizons, an early childhood education program. It was an awesome blessing to see Dr. Hilliard's commitment to freeing the African mind continued through his Association of Black Psychologists and through the educators in this country who are committed to training young African American students. I commend you on the naming of your school, and I hope that Asa's spirit will permeate every classroom and every teaching space in your school for years to come. Sincerely yours, Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright, Jr.
I'm being his lovely assistant right now. And now we will have remarks from Dr. Mario Beatty, Assistant Professor, Department of African American Studies at Howard University, and President of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations.
Hotep, everyone. There's so much that I want to say, but I want to begin by talking about Baba Asa in kind of a personal way. I saw this image up here. You can kind of see his shinu sticking out. It's not fully out. But on his final visit to Egypt, I was on that trip with him, and we met. And we were in the back room, and I asked Baba Asa, "Where did you get that fat gold chain?" In a joking way. And that shinu around his neck, it's double-sided. The first side has his name, and the flip side has an image of the divinity Jehudi that the Greeks called Thoth. And the reason why Baba Asa had that image of Jehudi is because Jehudi was the Kemetic divinity that represented divine speech, that represented deep thought, that represented wisdom, that represented content mastery, that represented inquiry, engaging, searching, finding on the deepest level. And those are the things that Baba Asa represented for us. It's why I have the shinu now. And in terms of what Baba Asa meant to the African world, everyone in this room was part of his network, meaning that he was part of so many institutions. He was present in our struggle on every level. He touched so many people's lives in so many different contexts. And that's why people are drawn to him are drawn to his excellence as a scholar, as a thinker, as a human being, as a person. Baba Asa, in his book, it's very interesting because the last presentation that he gave in Egypt, that presentation was about the stars. That presentation was about the constellation that the ancient Egyptians called Sa, or Orion. His presentation was about the idea that everything that you build and construct in this life is in constant and continual and perpetual engagement with a higher ideal. You're always making the link. We're in this building today. When the ancient Egyptians construct a building, that building is lined with a sacred ritual. That sacred ritual is called the stretching of the cord. And that sacred ritual, Baba Asa is wearing the Shanu of Jehudi, and the goddess Seshat was his consort. And every time you build a building, the goddess Seshat must be present in that ritual. She is the mistress of books. She is the mistress of the stars, of the constellation. She is the mistress of the idea that whatever you build must be in conversation with a higher power. So we're talking about the idea of what a quality education means. And Mama Patsy Jo Hilliard is wearing these very beautiful earrings with the divinity, the idea of Keper on them. And the ancient Egyptian word to educate was sekeper. And that meant that when you educate someone, you are trying to cause a transformation to occur in that individual for the better. And that transformation is not limited to content mastery. Baba Asa would say that's the lowest level. He would always say that to us. And he would say that African education is about a more powerful idea of transformation. It's not only an external acquisition of information and knowledge. It's an inward disposition. It's an inward attitude. It's the molding of the personality of the individual. It's about their character as a human being on this earth and what they will do to serve their community in conversation and relationship with everything around them. That's the African idea of education that Baba Asa was getting to. And it's interesting that his last work was Seba, the reawakening of the African mind. What did he mean by that? Seba, he was studying the stars. But Seba is an Egyptian word that can mean many different things. It can mean star. It can mean door. It means teacher. It means student. All at the same time. From the conception that he was trying to get us to look at is that when you are a teacher, the idea is to bring out the light within yourself and within others, to bring out that light. And the idea to mold that disposition is not just about content mastery. If there is one thing that I can say, one idea about Baba Asa that I could say that sums him up, it would probably be from the first maxim of a book that he published in the 1980s, The Instructions of Ptah-hotep. And he published this book with Baba Obadeli Williams, Nia Damali, And he called it the oldest book in the world. The oldest book in the world. And after they give the introduction of who Ptah-hotep is, the first maxim deals with humility. And it says, do not be proud of your knowledge. First statement. Consult the ignorant like the wise. You consult them in the same way. The limits of an art are not reached. Good speech is rarer than greenstone, yet it can be found among the maids at the grindstone. The idea that good speech is everywhere. It's in every human being. And Baba Asa's idea was, how do we come with the right ideas? At every conference that we had in ASCAC, he was one of the founders of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization. And we're having our international conference here in a few weeks at Morehouse College, March 10th through the 13th. Every faculty and staff member that is teaching at Asa G. Hilliard Elementary School, you will get in free. You will get in free. Come to the door, tell them that you're a faculty and staff member, you're in free. Because that's the gift from Baba Asa. Every time you were in his presence, he was giving you something. The first time I met him, here's a picture, brother. Take this picture. I want you to have this picture. He's always giving people things. That was his spirit. Not just giving things, but the idea of his spirit was to give of himself to the whole of the community. So Baba Asa was, as he would say, he's a special spirit, a very special spirit. And in every ASCAC conference, what I think has not been emphasized enough kind of today is that he would give us a constant catalog of the state of the war against our children. Every year, he was constantly up to date on the politics of education. And the idea that he was trying to inculcate in us is that how conquerors master a people is that they have to control their memory of their history and culture. And if a people surrender that to their oppressors, then they will become cheerleaders of their own oppression. So Baba Asa was trying to get us to see the value of what we have to give in our experience as a people, as a human culture, with the particular cultural experience, to bring that to bear in how we teach, how we educate, how we learn. There are alternative ways of knowing and being in the world, not just one. There are many truths. And Baba Asa's life was deeply embedded and immersed in trying to give us the best and the fullness of the African truth, of African humanity, from the ancient past all the way up to the present. I thank Baba Asa for his contributions, not just to ASCAC, but to the whole African world, to humanity. Because when we say that Baba Asa believed that every child can learn, that means that he would cut to the quick of these ideas that are current now. He would see right through them. You know, is the way to improve student learning closing down schools? You know, he would cut to the quick. And he would get us to see that these children are our children. They're our children. They can learn. They are divine presences. This educational institution here, the ancient Egyptians would call it a per-ankh. That is, it's a house of life. It's a house where everybody in here, in every day that you are in this space, your mission, your purpose is to give and to receive life in its fullest complex. That was Baba Asa's educational mission. That was what he was gaining toward. And I hope that with every fiber of your being in this space, I hope that the parents, that the staff, that the community, that the spiritual energy that surrounds this space, I hope that you galvanize and you continue to not just read about Asa, but as Baba Wade Nobles would say, do Asa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank Georgia State and also ASCAC for these gifts, because one thing that I've learned and I know is that education, this gift that we're getting is educating the different generations. So we have our existing teachers, we have the student teachers who are coming. Both of those groups are working together to educate our children who look at the teachers as models, and hopefully we're planting seeds for more educators. Education is the one thing no one can ever take from you. So I'd like to thank both entities for helping to make our children wealthy eternally. Thank you very much.
Can I speak now?
Karshik said I should say something about you first. This is really the architect of everything right here. So my dad told me one day, he said, listen, you think I'm popular. I'm not very popular. He says, because, there's a small network of people who know me from the African-centered community, and they know the work I do. And if you're in that community, there are a lot of people that will know what I do. And then if you deal with the folks that are just in educational psychology, there's some people that kind of know what I do. He said, but I'm not really out in the community. I don't really get a chance to do that because I'm working. And so your mother is my conduit to the community. And if she weren't with me, no one in East Point would know me. And he wasn't joking, right? So it's just really interesting that here's a lady who, the first, they say, everybody keeps saying she was the first African-American mayor in the East Point's history. At that time, it was 107 years. First female mayor, first African-American mayor, but before that, she was the first African-American in the school board in South San Francisco, California, before we moved to Georgia. Every community we go to, and this is what my dad would say, he said it, that everywhere we go, she was the one that kind of established us in the community and started participating and serving the communities where we lived. So he would probably say that he would never believe that a school would be named for him, but he would also give all credit and responsibility to this lady. It's just not a coincidence that it's in East Point where the school has been renamed. From somebody who's worthy of her own school, really. To spend all her time trying to make sure that all the work that her husband did is recognized and appreciated by everyone. So we appreciate you, Mom, and you do things big. Everybody knows that. And this is, and I just say Moses is still here. Moses Hananiah, and maybe some people in the African Center community don't even know this. When my father started going to Egypt back in the beginning of in the 80s, she was at one of the speeches with him. She says, "You always talking about Egypt. Won't you take your behind to Egypt?" And he said, "Well, I just don't have time to put it all together." So she went down on MLK and ran into a travel agent and found somebody and said, "My husband needs to take some people to Egypt. Can you help him?" and Moses got involved, and Moses Hananiah, stand up, because he coordinated every trip. I think there was almost 30 trips of people from all over the country that would go with my mother and father, and it was a waiting list of people to go every year because it was so well done, and my mother and father were so committed to it. But she was the architect, right? She was the architect of that, wanting everybody to know that the work that he was doing. So, Mom, it's your show now, okay? Thank you.
Thanks a lot. My heart is so heavy. I just feel so wonderful this evening, and I think you now have your marching orders, because as I said to the principal, I was just so excited about the name for this school, but I had said that, this is not something that Asa would be happy about. Having a name on a building was nothing, but what was important is that we follow his educational philosophy, and so that's what we talked about, and I think that's what we're going to all work towards. And so I think the thing that I feel so happy about now is I see so many longtime friends from the time we moved to East Point, and I see Jim Young here, and I always say I don't know whether to thank you or blame you for talking Asa into coming to Georgia. Stand up, Jim. Dr. Young. I'll thank you now. I'll thank you, Jim. But it's just wonderful. I think that, as I say, we have our marching orders, and I want to really thank the principal, because she was just wonderful. I think she thought, what is this person saying? I mean, she agreed with everything I said, and I really appreciate it. And the Watkins group, Vincent and where is she? Please come forward, because I could never have done this without them. I just socially mentioned to Patrice, I just mentioned one day that there was something that I was planning to do. And she said, well, tell me, let me help. And she just took it and ran with it. This is a Watkins group, so if you ever need anything done, please call on these. And of course, he helped me a long time ago when I was mayor, and so I knew what he could do. And so, of course, they're a team, as she reminded me. They're a team. and he pays attention to her, too, right?
Indeed.
So please remember them if there's anything that you need. But everybody has been so wonderful. I really appreciate the council. I had a call from the mayor, who was at a conference and could not get back in time. So that just makes me feel so good. LaTanya Martin, who worked very hard to make this happen. And I think I just feel wonderful. Georgia State, very happy. We have an endowed chair for Dr. Hilliard, and you'll be giving the scholarship again this year. We have one recipient, someone won. Stand up. The first recipient of the Asa Hilliard Scholarship last year. Erica Flemings. This is just going to be the beginning of a lot of different things that we're going to be doing, Madam Principal. So this is just the beginning, so I just thank you. I know you've all been a wonderful audience, very patient, and we just appreciate you. I need to ask the former students of Dr. Hilliard to please stand. I know there's several people in the audience who have been his students. And I think that's the one thing that makes me feel so good. I mean, hardly a day passes that I don't see someone who tells me a story about something that happened with him. And I think that's the thing that keeps me going. It just makes me feel so good. So, what? Oh, okay, so we're going to move on. We have, what? Oh, I know the choir's coming. See, my children are always trying to tell me what to do. I know the choir's coming. Is that okay? But anyway, thank you again very much for coming in as soon as we have the choir. And you see, we wanted to involve the children. There were many more opportunities for young people to perform. So we're going to make a habit of doing this, because we're so proud of our children. And they need a lot of help, and I hope that you're going to continue to do that for them. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a little surprise that we had. for you, but I'm gonna save you for last. So we wanted to thank the Hilliard family again for helping to introduce our students to the legacy that we are following and that we're going to develop them in. We'd like to ask for Dr. Denson to come up. We'd also like to ask Mr. Hakeem Hilliard to come up, and Mr. Eric Cork to please come up. So this is my PTA, our PTA president, Mrs. Hardiman. So we have certificates for all of them to tell them how much we appreciate everything that they've done for us, not only this week, but Mrs. Patsy Jo Hilliard has been at the school since we opened. She's brought I'm serious. She brought volunteers in to help read, and those are the types of things that our students remember. When they see her, they know her, and they go to her, they celebrate her, so they know who the building is named after. They know the wife of the person who the building is named after, if nothing else. So I'd like to say thank you very much for everything. Thank you. And now, we have the most awesome choir in South Fulton County, and then we'll turn it over. There'll be a nice reception to follow.
When Jesus was
Before we close out the program, we would like to acknowledge a few more individuals, and if you present, please stand. Members of the College Park City Council. Thank you. Vincent and Patrice Watkins and the Watkins Group. Attorney Larry Dingle. Gus Thornhill. Catherine Maddox. If you're from Georgia State University, whether you're part of the faculty, administration, or student body, please stand as well too. Brian Murray, my neighbor. Eric Cork. And I know you all are hungry. We have wonderful food out in the reception hall, and I would love to acknowledge that the food is provided by Eclipse de Luna Restaurant. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.